Oh, and by the way, one of the points that I've been trying to make, all right, whole circumstance with API and that whole thing, 13, which 35 now. What started the whole thing was people going ahead and assuming that everything, when it came down to the World Trade Center attack, that it didn't end up affecting me personally. All right. Now, with that whole take your child to work day, being expected to go ahead and build, chips, being taught through that trade school, through BOCES, as far as how to be able to operate a soldering iron, and the entirety of the country going ahead and ending up in a state of emergency, you know, under martial law, which was basically the conditions meant or that needed to be met in order to turn a blind eye in a regulatory manner because of the factor of needing to go ahead and make sure to have the manufacturing power to be able to have the supplies needed in order to be able to engage, should the offensive end up on U.S. soil, like within the borders of the United States. That's a very different set of laws. But ultimately, the patterns that ended up going ahead and triggering those laws seem to meet very similar patterns to a lot of the word mincing and media coverage that's going on now. And there's an entire generation that didn't have to witness that live. That didn't end up having to go ahead and think when they're a kid, before they even hit puberty. I'm gonna go ahead and have a life where it's gonna be peace and yeah, there are gonna be hard times, there are gonna be things that end up traumatizing me, but ultimately I've got a bright future ahead of me. Thinking before, then after the situation, World Trade Center, API Electronics, all that, going ahead and seeing, one person after another deploying. Well, meantime, there were a few people that was like, hey, so would rather with the logistics and communication to be able to go ahead and make sure that it's not a one-way trip. And you know what ends up happening if you don't have the assurance of knowing that everybody made their way back safely? Survivor's guilt. You know what that does? That makes you pretty fucking angry regardless. But it's about being angry at the right people. The people who could have done something to prevent the whole situation from escalating and going into a complete downward spiral. That ended up going ahead and allowing the fire to go ahead and keep getting fanned over and over and over and over again, while simultaneously not paying attention to the weaponization of litigatory attempts in comparison to the guardrails of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights end up going ahead and installing of what's allowed and not allowed, and simultaneously recognizing discriminatory nature. So, like, for example, that ended up causing a whole lot of Islamophobia. And for me, it was, nah, you can't blame, all right, people from an entire ethnicity, an entire religious background, an entire, geolocation area for the actions of a few people. So the factor of the way that ended up getting stoked up really pissed me off. Especially to see a race war simultaneously, getting stoked up right in the same place that, grew up in.